going on. And I think the biggest story is this story. Uncharted territory. For the first time, 50% say America is headed in the right direction. Now you may go, wow, only 50% think we're headed in the right direction. But because of the polarization of our nation and because of the ideology, the political ideology that is prevalent in too much of our nation, it's almost impossible. Matter of fact, it is impossible to get more than 50% of the people thinking we're headed in the right direction until now. Is
good news today. Consumer confidence hit a record high, and also the highly respected pollster Matt Rasmussen showed that the majority of Americans view our country as heading on the right track under President Trump. This is a stark contrast to what that same polling showed under the previous disastrous administration led by Joe Biden.
I'm going to share this with you because I think it's really significant, and this was written by Newt Gingrich, so let me read this to you. President Trump's stunning poll numbers, despite the turmoil and anxiety being spread by the country's elites and the propaganda media, the American people are rendering a remarkably positive judgment about President Donald J. Trump's second term. As Rasmussen reports, pollster Mark Mitchell recently posted on X, holy crap, it happened. For the first time in our polling history, a majority say the country is on the right track. Don't F it up, Republicans. To put this in context, in November of 2024, Real Clear Politics, which does, they track all the major polls and then they average them. So a lot of people use that because it's averaging, but it doesn't work because so many of the leftist polls are just phony as can be, as we all know. Real Clear Politics reported the results were 26% said we were on the right track and 63% said we were on the wrong track. This is right before the November 2024 election. 63% of people said we were on the wrong track because we were. And because this podcast and the conservative media had finally broken through to get the message out about the truth and the fake news because of Donald Trump's attacks on them and our attacks on them. You're pointing out the lies that they did were just, completely ineffective in pushing propaganda. 63% said we're on the wrong track right before the election. Going from 37 points, going from down 37 points to up 1 point in the first 4 months of a new administration is an astounding achievement. And this is not just one survey. Matt Towery of Inside Advantage noted that its poll has President Trump at 55% approval. Rasmussen report had him at 52% approval. Towery told me he believes these numbers are within each other's margins of error. Yet another poll, the Democracy Institute, reported that President Trump has a 6-point approval advantage of 52% to 46%. Even more striking, the poll showed 51% of President Trump felt President Trump was fixing America, while only 37%, close to the base of the Democratic Party, disagreed. As Democracy Institute founding director Patrick Bresham said, a massive margin of 14 points, America says he is fixing America. So 3 different polls show extraordinary positive results for President Trump. Of course, they did not make the front page of the New York Times or the Washington Post. They did not become breaking news on NBC, CBS, or ABC, and forget about MSNBC and CNN. It doesn't matter. The elites are content reassuring each other that everything is terrible and President Trump is doomed to fail. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for you and I and the country, the American people increasingly disagree because we see the truth. We see the truth. Okay? So this story came out. Consumer confidence for May was much stronger than expected of optimism of trade deals. Consumer optimism got a much-needed boost in May on hopes for trade peace between the U.S. and China, according to a survey Tuesday. The Conference Board's consumer index leaped to 98%, a 12.3-point increase from April, and much than the Dow Jones consensus estimate of 86%. So the Wall Street types were saying that the consumer confidence in the economy would only be at 86% because of Trump's tariffs, and it went up to 98%, folks. Much of the positive sentiment, according to board officials, came from developments in the U.S.-China trade impasse, most notably President Donald Trump's halting of the most severe tariffs on May 12th. The rebound was already visible before May 12th's China-U.S. trade deal, but gained momentum afterwards. May's rebound followed 5 straight months of declines. So consumers were going down in their confidence, and now it's going up. Consumers and investors had grown sour on economic prospects amid the intensifying trade war that Trump had launched against U.S. global trading partners. However, the two sides reached a truce in early May, marking the second major walkback of Trump's so-called reciprocal tariffs since he levied them in April's 2nd Liberation Day announcement. Now, put this in context, okay? Why was people's confidence down? Because when Trump announced the tariffs, the media and Wall Street and everybody that was making money from shipping your jobs overseas, oh man, this is terrible. Trump's destroying it. The tariffs are terrible. They beat you. But this podcast, other podcasts, other conservative news like One America News, Newsmax, they and Real America's News with Steve Bannon and those guys, they made the case. Trump was right. He's saying, listen, we have these bad trade deals. If I use tariffs to force them to come to the table and give us better trade deals, how is that bad for America? If it gets people to move their manufacturing to the United States, how is that bad for America? You and I got it. We understand. The elites didn't want you to understand. They wanted you to be sheep and to herd you. And you aren't being herded anymore. You're not sheep. You know the facts, and here are the facts. Let me play this, because we're about individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, right? So what's more important than wages, than income? This is good news. This is awesome.
Personal income is up 0.8%. That is almost triple the expectations, and it underscores we could talk about a lot of issues, but when you look at income for the first 4 months of the year, they're powerful numbers, Joe. Up 0.6 in January, up 0.7 in February, up 0.5% last month, up 0.8 this month. This is a great 4-month start to any year. Now, with the income shooting up, and by the way, 0.8 is the strongest income month-over-month jump since May of 21, when it was 1.9.
So that's amazing. Incomes are going up month by month by month, okay? Which is why inflation isn't going up, because we're keeping inflation in check. And I told you guys last week and the week before, I've been telling you about, you should go to whitehouse.gov, okay, and subscribe to their email newsletter, because they're doing a fantastic job. As I told you, Trump isn't taking anything into chance anymore. His team is unbelievably talented. So now they're bypassing the news. You want news? Just go to whitehouse.gov and click on, there's a little thing on the side. You click and it says news, and then there's a list of stories that they put out. And they sent this newsletter out this morning, very concise. It says inflation is down 2.1% in April, lower than expected. Incomes are up, as we just showed you in that video. But the trade deficit, because of the tariffs, they were projecting that the trade deficit was going to be $162 billion. That's what they said it was going to be. Because of revenue from tariffs already, even when the deals aren't finally done and the 90 days isn't up and all that, the deficit for the month was only $87.6 billion. Now, we don't want any deficit, but in just 3 months, to cut the deficit for the month in half? Folks, this is serious stuff. Imports are down 20%. Exports are up 3.4%. That's how you balance trade. It's working. We know it's working. All of us are tuned in. But go to whitehouse.gov and click on the news link and get the newsletter. It's fantastic.